The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Hey folks, we're back. This is Steve Sampson, Jim Jonas, and Christina Ortiz with Veterans in Politics. We have a full house today, and we are 2 minutes behind. We have Len Marciano, candidate member, State Board of Education, District Number 4. We're going to have Ruben D'Silva, U.S. Congressional candidate for District Number 1. We're going to have Vaughn Hartung, Washoe County Commissioner, Ward Number 4. And we're going to have a special guest from the island of American Samoa, Amata, Amaya. That's going to be calling in as well. And you guys got anything?
Nope.
All right, good. Let's go right to our first guest. We're going to have Vaughn Hartung, Washoe County Commissioner, Ward Number 4. Vaughn, are you out there?
Okay.
Commissioner, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Say again, Steve, I'm sorry.
Commissioner, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Vaughn Hartung, Commission District 4, Washoe County. I've lived in Nevada for well over 50 years. I grew up in Vegas. I've lived in Washoe County up here in the Reno-Sparks area since about 1980. I've been involved in my community for about 20-plus years. Ran for commission in 2012, won, ran again this year, and by a sort of a twist in state law, won in the primary.
When you say a twist in state law, exactly what do you mean by that?
Well, NRS 293260 used to call out that there would, if we had more than people from the same party, one person, if they took more than 50%, they went on unopposed, which is actually the way I won in 2012. The legislature changed it just slightly in the last session to say even if there were only two people from the same party, you didn't go on to the general. The one that took the most votes went on unopposed, and I took 55% of the vote.
Well, Commissioner, I want to congratulate you for winning your primary. Ultimately, you're still the county commissioner for Washoe County. And I want to also congratulate you for receiving the endorsement of Veterans in Politics as well. And with that said, Commissioner, what are the main challenges out there in Washoe?
Well, let me start, Steve, by saying, look, I'm thrilled to be here to have a conversation with you guys today, and I'd like to recognize that fact by saying the reason we can have this conversation open and freely is because what all the veterans and active military have done and do for us every single day. And the price of freedom is very high, and they have paid it for us, and I feel blessed to be able to deal with some of these issues on a free and open basis because of what the active military and, again, the veterans have done.
Okay.
So, having said that, there's we have the same kinds of issues that you guys have. We deal with all manner of social issues. We deal with water, growth, infrastructure. The list is virtually the same. We're just scaled down a little bit from Clark County.
Okay. Jim?
So you touched on one of the top things I want to talk about, water. What kind of issues are you guys facing up there? I mean, I'm sure you know about our issues down here with Lake Mead, but what kind of things are you running into as far as water issues up there?
Well, it's been very dry for us as well. We historically have had great upstream reserves that come initially out of Tahoe and then fill a number of reservoirs along the way. We still use a lot of groundwater reserves. One of the big pushes that I have tried to make is the way that we reuse our water as opposed to just sort of flushing effluent down the drain, to treat it to a much higher standard and then pump it back down into our aquifers for reuse.
Do you I'm not real familiar with Washoe County. I mean, I know a little bit about it, but especially like northern Washoe County, I don't know much about it. Do you have do you run into issues with? Do you have a lot of farming that goes on up in northern Washoe?
We do have a certain amount of agricultural, but not to a great degree. It's not real primary for us. You do see some of that out in the Fallon and those areas, but and of course down south in Douglas County and that. But no, we don't. We're not a real agricultural based community. We used to have quite a number of pastures and etc. But that is sadly slowly but surely going away.
How do you guys manage? What's the process in which you manage Lake Tahoe? Is there limitations on what you can draw out of there, or is it just pretty much what the people need?
Well, Lake Tahoe is an interesting. There's some huge differences there. It's owned partly by Nevada and it's owned partly by California. Because the state line essentially it doesn't quite split the lake, but it goes through the lake. Lake Tahoe's natural rim is at 6,223 feet above sea level. The dam holds the lake back to 6,229.1, representing 744,600 acre-feet of water. That's a lot of water, but that's not all for use for Washoe County. There are many downstream users, and of course, that water ultimately flows into Pyramid. Okay. The use of that water, though, is dictated by the Truckee River Operating Agreement, and that spans back to the turn of the 20th century, so or the 19th into the 20th century. So it's kind of a delicate scenario, but then there are other reservoirs along the way that sort of get filled as well as Tahoe. But Tahoe's been down. It's now currently below the natural rim.
Commissioner, sorry, Jim. Commissioner, isn't Reno part of Washoe County?
Yes.
Okay, and do your area, Ward number 4, does it cover any of the Reno area?
No, actually, I'm all of Sparks. I'm
a
place out north called Spanish Springs, which is where I've lived for more than 29 years.
Okay.
It goes all the way out. It follows the Pyramid Highway all the way out to the river, all the way east out to Wadsworth, and the river is essentially the boundary line. So
okay.
It's a pretty big stretch.
All right, I got to ask this question, Commissioner. Do you have any brothels in your ward?
No, there are no legal brothels like Clark County. There are no legal brothels in Washoe County.
Okay,
we're just like the rest of the state where we're controlled by population.
So you're losing tax dollars then, huh?
Well, I don't know about losing tax dollars, but we don't. There's no legalized prostitution. We do have it very close to us over in Story County, much the same as Clark County does.
Okay, so it's in Story County?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, John.
Go ahead, Christina.
I had to know. Because me and Jim might want to come on over there. We want to make sure we go into the right areas.
Yep.
You can keep Jim and Steve too.
Okay, I don't know how to respond to that. I'll put you in a cab.
You don't got Uber?
I'll put you in Uber.
Okay. Go ahead, Christina.
Hi, Commissioner, and thank you for being on the show. This is Christina Ortiz. My question for you, and something you touched on, is on the education.
Yes.
How does that work for you guys? Are you guys in the trying to push the ESAs, and is that a process for you guys as well?
Well, the Washoe County School District has had, and they are, by the way, a separate entity. We don't control the school district. We don't control their funding. We don't control them in any form other than them being a sister agency, as it were. But yes, the Washoe County School District has had great issues, as the Clark County School District has, with respect to funding and trying to keep our infrastructure up to par. It's a real issue for us.
Okay. Commissioner, I'm sorry we don't have enough time today, but I'd like to have you on in a future program. Could you give us your point of contact?
The easiest way to reach me is vhartung@washoecounty.us. US. That's my email address.
Okay. And thank you so much. And I heard you had a fire out there. How was that going, by the way?
You know, it's been out south of town, out off of Franktown Road, which is an old historic district in Washoe Valley, just before you cross over into Carson. It was a real issue. It's a little more than 3,400 acres of land. We've lost more than 20 homes and quite a number of barns and outbuildings. Thus far, we've not had, to our knowledge, any fatalities, so it is a great thing, or any real injuries other than some smoke inhalation. It's it's definitely a huge hit for our community.
All right, Commissioner, thank you so much for being on the program. That's Vaughn Hartung, Washoe County Commissioner, Ward number 4. And we'll be right back, folks, with Len Marciano, candidate member, State Board of Education, District number 4. This is Steve Sampson, Jim Jonas, and Christina Ortiz.
Hi, this is Annette Levy. Corruption destroys communities. Did you know Nevada was rated the 5th most corrupt state in the nation? I want to change that. I'm running for District Court Judge in Department 20. Let's work together to raise the bar in Nevada. Call me at 702-499-7278 or look me up on my website, electanet.com. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Heidi Hanusa, and I'm a marriage and family therapist. My clients consist of families, children, couples, and individuals that are in need of some assistance dealing with trauma, depression, anxiety, and many other life issues that you can find on my website. I accept most insurances. For additional information, such as location, hours, insurances, and experience, go to my website at Faith Individual and Family Counseling.
Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sampson, Jim Jonas, Christina Ortiz with Veterans in Politics. We have Len Marciano, candidate member, State Board of Education, District number 4. Mr. Marciano, how you doing today?
How you doing, Steve?
Are you related to that boxer, by the way?
Frank Marciano, my uncle was a middleweight boxer back in the 50s. He fought in Madison Square Garden on TV, and he trained with Rocky Marciano. So I met Rocky Marciano when I was a little kid up in Newton Lake in Scranton, because I'm a native from Pennsylvania, from Scranton, Pennsylvania. But I met him, but no. He, in fact, his real name is not Marciano, but my Uncle Frank and my name.
Stole the name, did he?
He did. He took it.
Okay.
Right
Is
away
he
from
like
us.
who the movie Rocky was like made off of? Is like that who inspired the movie Rocky?
No, Chuck Wepner was the one who inspired the movie Rocky. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Marciano, could you do you box, by the way?
No.
Okay.
No.
right.
But I did play baseball in high school, and
Okay.
I was a sports official here in Clark County. An
Really?
umpire for these girls' high school softball
Oh, wow.
for about 7 years. Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Marciano.
Okay. Well, I'm running for an educational position, the State Board of Education from Congressional District 4. It's a multi-county district. And education basically is my family business. I had a great aunt who was the first professor in Scranton University. And
You're Latin?
No,
Okay.
she spoke the Latin language.
Okay.
And
I was just making sure you weren't Latin.
No.
Because with Marciano, I figured you're
am
Italian.
Italian.
Okay.
No, God, no.
All right.
Pasta.
Now you just insulted him.
In
Just
fact,
saying.
my grandfather was a chef, and he came over, and there was Marciano's restaurant. Actually, I met a couple of people out here in Las Vegas who remembered Marciano's restaurant in Scranton. But education, really, as I was saying, is my family business. My great aunt was a Latin professor in Scranton University. My father taught. My uncle taught. And I have several cousins. Right now, my sister is a 8th grade science teacher. My brother is a 5th grade math teacher, and I have another sister who is a kindergarten teacher.
I hate to get back to this, but you said your great aunt,
Yes,
who's Italian, right?
she was Italian. Yes,
Right. She was a
Latin teacher.
Latin teacher.
Latin teacher. The Latin
I'm
language.
just trying to wrap my head around that.
This goes back 60 years. My father also was a Latin teacher when he first started
Really?
out, because she influenced him. In fact, she was She was the one who influenced the whole family to become teachers.
What happened to
And,
being an Italian teacher? I'm just saying.
Italian teacher,
That doesn't ring. It doesn't ring.
No,
huh? Okay.
Hey, I
but
had an
really,
Italian
Latin is the basis of all the Romance languages.
All the romance
All
languages.
the Romance languages, and you can see my beautiful wife is here today, and you can see why I got into the Romance languages.
Oh, okay.
So did your aunt teach the ecclesiastical Latin or the traditional Latin?
Traditional Latin.
Okay, because
Yes.
it was part of my teaching that I had to learn both forms
Traditional.
of.
This was traditional. This was good. Great aunt. You realize how old I am. This was about 60 years ago. She was doing this. 60. She was the first one. She was really the first female who was a professor over there. Kinda like
Continue,
now.
Mr. Marciano. I hate to interrupt you, but I just had to. I had to just understand what you were saying.
Anyway, so as I said, education is my family business. When the Thanksgiving comes and we sit around eating turkey, we talk education.
Okay.
I spent 32 years as a teacher and administrator in education. I was in New Jersey, in Manville, New Jersey, and I was also the district coordinator, and I did everything for language arts from kindergarten through 12th grade, and I did everything. I was involved in every educational decision, curriculum, teacher evaluation and development. I was involved in the evaluation of textbooks and software, and I even worked with the state boards of education in New Jersey to develop curriculum and different ideas there.
Here's the ultimate question
Yes.
for you, Mr. Marciano. Why do you want to be a board of education member?
Because Nevada is having a difficult time in education. I don't want to say that they're last in education, but they are as far as quality education. In fact, one time during the last 4 years, they were 51st, believe it or not, behind the District of Columbia.
51st.
Yeah, the district, yes, 51st behind the District of
Wow,
Columbia.
they're just way off the charts. Huh?
Yeah, but they're improving the last couple of years. But the reason I want to be on the board is because I believe I can bring educational decisions that the board has been lacking over the last 4 years. They have been making political decisions.
Right.
And you could see our Governor Sandel, you talked about the ESA before. He made a political decision not to include it at the last special session.
Because he wasn't going to get the votes.
He's supposed to be the education
You know why,
governor.
right? He wasn't going to get the votes for the stadium.
He wasn't going to get the votes for the stadium. He made a political decision. That's my point. And in the newspaper it was reported, who did he talk to? Did he talk to any educational leaders? No, he talked to his political advisors before he made that particular decision. The State Board of Education members over the last 4 years have been making political decisions, not educational decisions. And I think that it's time that we held them accountable. They have on their website goals for the last 4 years. You know how many they achieved? 0. They have not even progressed to achieving any of those. But I've got news for you. Those goals are achievable. It's just too bad that we have the cancer of Common Core in our state. We have the cancer of Common Core that's killing the students and the parents and the communities in this particular
Who came
state.
up with this Common Core thing anyway?
Bill and Melinda Gates. They are the ones who put the big bucks up. You see, the Department of Education can't have a national curriculum because it's against the law. So they bribed with stimulus money in 2009 governors to take the money and institute a Common Core developed by Bill and Melinda Gates, whose money drove that. And that was really, when you think about it now, it was a subversion of our republic, because it shouldn't have gone to the governors. It should have gone to the state legislatures to discuss the use of the money. But if they did that, then parents would be involved, and all the citizens of Nevada would be involved, but they weren't. Instead, they developed the Common Core curriculum behind closed doors to private institutions. I was asked this question, how come there wasn't any the open law? Because 2 private institutions developed the Common Core, and at that Common Core meeting, parents were not allowed to attend. They were
Real
excluded.
quick, Mr. Marciano, explain what Common Core is.
Common Core is a set of standards. Now, there are 10 standards that can never be changed because the 2 private institutions, the chief counsel of the state school officers, and the Governors Association are private institutions, and they have a copyright, which means those first 10 can never be changed because they own the property rights to it. We could add to it, but we can't change it. And that's a set of standards, and from the set of standards, now teachers say, we developed the curriculum. Yes, but teachers develop the curriculum based on the standards.
Gotcha.
So the teachers actually are saying the truth. It's not the standards, it's the curriculum, but the curriculum is built on. Because I have built many curriculums in my time,
Right.
and curriculum is built on the standards.
What do you-
Standards come first.
What would be a preferable option to Common Core? Because I want to get rid of it too, but obviously you know a lot more about it than I do. What should we replace it with?
Okay,
in your
now there were
opinion?
two. I'm sure you realized in the past election cycle, there were two proposals to replace Common Core. One proposal was to go back to the standards that were originally there before Common Core.
2 plus 2.
And well, whatever those standards were, and the other one was to use the state of Massachusetts standards, because Massachusetts is more or less the gold standard as far as educational standards are concerned. I would prefer to go back to the standards that Nevada had, because you know why? Common Core didn't allow any parents to participate or any of the citizens. The standards previously, this is a short-term fix. The standards previously were discussed by the parents, by the community. I would want to start with that, and then we can change it. See, we can't change the first 10 Common Core standards, but we can change what happened in the past. Immediately, what we could do is, the State Board of Education voted to install the Common Core standards and develop a curriculum from kindergarten through 12th grade. They voted on that. We can rescind those two votes and vote to put back the standards that were there beforehand. Then we could have a discussion of parents and communities and teachers, and we can get involved and we can make changes as we go along. We could evaluate those standards and see where we want to go from there. If we want to go then to the Massachusetts standards, that would be fine, but
Right.
we would have input. These Common Core standards had zero input from any member of Nevada. And
So
not only that, now, based on those Common Core standards, you also have testing. Now, here's the thing about the testing. SBAC is the testing company. The man who runs the SBAC testing company has 0 degrees in education. Nothing. He graduated from Fordham University with a religious degree. He spent his whole adult life
Fordham University in New York City.
He spent his whole adult life tracking students, not for educational purposes, just to track and get all the information he could from those students.
Right.
Then he's the CEO now of the SBAC. No matter what safeguard we have in our Constitution, we have none, because SBAC and the Department of Education, the Federal Department of Education, has a contract that whatever if information that the SBAC gets from the students of Nevada, it goes to the federal government through that contract. The only way to do that is to rescind the contract with SBAC and go back to the way that we have been doing it before, using the gold standard of standardized testing, the National Association of Educational Standards. We've been using that for years. It's a 2-year test. The problem with the testing now is it's excessive. Those tests that the NAEP are 2-year tests that will give the teachers and the parents a time to evaluate and to make changes.
I gotta ask you something, because apparently there's 3 different forms of our education as far as elected officials are concerned. You got the Board of Regents that handles all the higher education.
That's right.
And then you got the Board of School Trustees that
That's right.
handle all the public schools and
Right.
and the high schools, K through 12. What does the Board of Education handle?
State Board of Education. The State Board of Education handles the policy. It was the one who voted to accept the Common Core standards. It was the one who voted to create models for curriculum for the K through 12.
Okay.
And during the last
So are they kind of a middleman between the
No.
regent and the trustees?
between the region, actually the State Board of Education is the one who has oversight over the trustees.
Okay.
The regents are totally like,
You have nothing to do with the
nothing.
regents.
They're
Okay.
the colleges.
Gotcha,
And they're
gotcha.
the upper. But the State Board of Education is the oversight committee that watches over the trustees, the Board of Trustees, and creates policy that they will follow.
And you're in District 4, so
I am
is that Congressional District
It's
4?
Congressional
That's
District
like
4, and it's, as I said, it's a multi-congressional district. We're mostly northern Clark County, but we also are Nye, Lincoln, Southern
Indian
Southern
Springs, right?
Lyon, yep,
Okay.
Southern Lyon, Esmeralda, and Mineral.
So-
we cover all of those counties. Now, so we have so what I have to do is I have the urban parts of urban parts of Clark County, but I also have to worry about the students who live in the rural districts too.
Christina,
which up to Mesquite, they go up to Mesquite, and there's a lot of rural districts and there are a lot of problems there too that the State Board of Education refuses to even look at.
Mr. Marciano, Christina, I gotta be real stickler on time if we're gonna get those other two guests in. I want to thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you very much.
And I like to thank you for congratulate you for receiving the endorsement of Veterans of
Thank
Politics.
you. I really think it's an honor, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. Very
Could you
much.
give us your point of contact?
Well, my website is marcianoforeducation.com with the number 4.
Okay.
And you want the...
You got a phone number or something?
Oh, yes.
Or a website?
Website is marcianoforeducation.com, and my phone number is 702-285-9493.
Well, folks, that's Len Marciano. He's a candidate member running for State Board of Education, District Number 4, and we are encouraging all Veterans in Politics members and families to go out and vote for Len Marciano for Congressional District Number 4. And, in Congressional District Number 4. Right. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas, and Christina Ortiz of Veterans in Politics. But don't go away, folks. We're going to have Ruben D'Silva, a U.S. Congressional candidate for District Number 1.
Hi, this is Annette Levy. Corruption destroys communities. Did you know Nevada was rated the 5th most corrupt state in the nation? I want to change that. I'm running for District Court Judge in Department 20. Let's work together to raise the bar in Nevada. Call me at 702-499-7278 or look me up on my website, electanet.com. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Heidi Hanusa, and I'm a marriage and family therapist. My clients consist of families, children, couples, and individuals that are in need of some assistance dealing with trauma, depression, anxiety, and many other life issues that you can find on my website. I accept most insurances. For additional information, such as location, hours, insurances, and experience, go to my website at Faith Individual and Family Counseling.
Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas, and Christina Ortiz of Veterans in Politics. We have Ruben D'Silva, congressional candidate for District Number 1. But before we get to Ruben D'Silva, and I just want to point out something here, that we have a candidate that is running for Congressional District Number 1, an educator that graduated from Rancho High School, went back to Rancho High School, and became a teacher at Rancho High School. This is a gentleman that took a bullet for this country, took a sniper bullet while he was in Iraq. This guy believes in this country. This guy has the willingness and has demonstrated that he's willing to die for this country. This is the gentleman that served in the Marine Corps. This is the gentleman that's running as an independent candidate. So, these people that are running for that are running on the Democratic ticket, that's why you vote for them, because you believe that they believe in your ideology, or they're running on a Republican ticket, you believe that they're representing your ideology. But why don't you just vote for somebody that's an American? We're American first, party second, if you want to put that, but we're always American first. This gentleman has demonstrated that he's willing to die for this country. Come on, guys. He's educated. He's knowledgeable. He knows what it takes to become a congressman. Vote for him because it's the right thing to do, not because of party affiliation. And with that, I'd like to introduce Ruben D'Silva, candidate for U.S. Congress, representing District Number 1. Mr. D'Silva, your bio, please.
Oh, thank you, Steve, for that gracious introduction. You almost made me shed a tear here.
I was going to say, can we hire you?
As a PR person. But, many people should know that I actually went to school with Steve's son, Steve Sanson Jr. Mm-hmm. We went to school at Rancho High School together. So this is an individual who I've known for a long time, and I appreciate your work in the community, getting people involved and engaged in our political process. Just a little bit about myself. I know Steve did mention a few key tenets of our story here. I grew up in District 1. I've been in Las Vegas since I was 6 years old. I grew up in North Las Vegas around the Civic Center and Lake Mead area, and went to Rancho High School. After Rancho High School, I should mention, I went to St. Christopher's Catholic School for my middle school years, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And Christina's mom, Mrs. Haberlin, was our principal there. And I think she really got me on that straight and narrow, because I was a pretty rambunctious, crazy little kid growing up in Northtown. But it was Christina's mom who actually, I think, set me off on that right path. But after Rancho, I went on to CSN. While I was at CSN, I was actually, I don't know if you knew this, Steve, but I was being recruited by the Navy. And I was sitting down and getting ready to sign my papers with the Navy. And I had a...
And God came and touched your shoulder.
And in many ways, it was a Marine Corps recruiter, of all people, who I saw.
And there you have it.
Yeah. And it was a staff sergeant looking very decked out. He had all kinds of chest candy there on his chest.
Candy.
And I saw him at the foyer of of CSN, the Cheyenne campus. Right. It was CCSN back then, the Community College of Southern Nevada. And he came up to me and said, "Hey, young man, you ever thought about joining the armed forces?" I said, "I'm actually talking to the Navy right now. I'm getting ready to possibly sign my papers." And he says, "You know what? Before you do that, let's have an intervention. Come see me at my office."
Intervention.
Well, he needed one.
So, if you remember the North Las Vegas recruiting station, you had the Navy and the Marines. They were right by each other.
Right.
So I went and saw the Navy recruiter, and then I stopped by and saw the Marine recruiter. I walked into his office and said, "Hey, I'm here. You wanted to talk to me."
Right.
So we sat down. He's giving me the spiel, and then in the middle of our conversation, he says, "You know what? Let me just get down to the nitty gritty." Right? You see this uniform, and he knows that I'm a teenager now. I'm 18 years old, right? Fresh out of high school. He says, "You see this uniform? You're gonna not get as many dates, and you're not gonna get as many girlfriends in the Navy as you will with this uniform."
So you did it for the chicks,
huh? And as a teenager, fresh out of high school,
like,
college,
I need to get that uniform.
Figure out my way in the world. I'm like, that uniform is what I want. And it's a beautiful uniform.
Dress blues.
In the end, it was the uniform that really made me switch my entire.
The uniform did it.
It was the Marine Corps. That's what I wanted.
The uniform did
uniform.
it. You're gonna go and say that right now. The uniform did it.
That's how I got married, and I keep telling people that better work, because the next time I'm never meeting a Marine again, ever.
And when she told me that the uniform was attracted her to her husband too, I was like, you know what, I may have made the right choice. So I'm still looking. I'm single. I'm still looking for a wife here. Hopefully, my mom is getting on me now. We're East Indian, so it's a big thing.
I know she wants a grandkid.
We need grandkids.
Right.
So, but yes, I joined the Marine Corps.
Okay.
In 2003, going to 2004, very consequential moment in our nation's history. Consequential time frame. I signed my papers, went off to boot camp, came back, finished up at CSN. I was in the Marine Corps Reserves, and we were deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2006, late 2006. And I was in the Fallujah, Ramadi area, Al-Taqadam area, during the surge. And we know that was a pretty hectic time in our nation's history. In the history of the Marine Corps, we saw some of the heaviest urban combat since Vietnam. Really, it was during this time frame. I ended up getting actually injured in the war. Got shot by a sniper through the arm on a resupply mission.
Because he was a bad shot.
He was a bad shot. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Or maybe I was just too skinny of a Marine. Maybe that's the reason why he missed me. But he did hit my arm.
Well, you know what? Thank you for your service, by the way.
No, and thank you for your service as well. We have a lot of veterans here on this panel. And I was immediately medevaced out of the combat zone. I spent some time in Germany, and then was brought back to the United States and spent a year in rehabilitation at Balboa Navy Hospital. I finished up my rehab. I got some usage back in my arm.
Right.
And came back to UNLV, finished up my degree there in American history. And my real career goal was to be a high school teacher.
Is the Purple Heart your favorite medal?
Yeah, I do like that Purple Heart. It's the one that it's the one that has precedence over all my other medals.
Right.
So
he's not wearing today.
Oh
either.
yeah, I should have worn my.
I thought it would have been. I thought it would have been a national commendation, or the National Defense Medal.
The
National Defense Medal.
Yes, I did. That was my first medal actually. I think we all achieved that graduating boot camp.
Right.
But
what, you got to graduate in boot camp?
Yeah, you had to
The
graduate.
National Defense Medal?
Yeah, because we served during wartime.
Oh my God, I didn't get that until I was in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, so we served during wartime, so anybody who served during a time...
just because you graduated boot camp, they gave it to you.
Yeah, because we were going on wartime, and I'll never forget, he got shot was I was trying to sign my paperwork for the Army, and our moms are friends, and she's calling my mom crying, and my mom is calling me in her bedroom like, telling me this, and I had to go and tell her I was signing my Army paperwork. So, by the way, thanks for that horrible moment in my life.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Mr. D'Silva.
Yeah, but I ended up, trying to get a job as a high school teacher. But in 2010, if you remember, we were having those budget cuts issues here, and then this was one of the first times in many years where you can get a teacher's credential and not, get a job in the Clark County School District. So I looked at grad school opportunities, applied to some programs, and got some pretty solid acceptances. I got one to Columbia and another one to the University of Pennsylvania.
Right.
And I decided to go on to Philadelphia and study global affairs, global studies at the University of Pennsylvania. And I specifically studied the role of religion in the globalization process. Okay. This was something I took from my Iraq days. While we were there, that Sunni Shiite conflict was a huge deal. It's as if we felt as if we were stuck in the middle of a civil war in the area that I was in. And I remember, Marine units going out to the Euphrates River and pulling out bodies after these militias had dumped them in the river there and in the lake around our base.
I like to stop you right there for a second because apparently what's going on in Congress and the U.S. Senate right now, there's lack of veterans. That are serving in our country's legislative system. Do you believe that a commander-in-chief, okay, the President of the United States, who's also the commander-in-chief, the top dog for a military, do you think that person should have some military background before he start running shit?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think constitutionally it's not a requirement.
But you think we should change that constitution and say a minimum of 4 years? ROTC program at least?
Yeah. I think it's extremely beneficial for our commander-in-chief to have some sort of experience with armed forces. And being a veteran, I think, is the most intimate of that experiences. If you look at, from the get-go, George Washington was a general.
Yeah. It was the first president.
Yeah, he was the first president. If you look at the military records of most of our presidents, they've had some sort of experience serving in our armed forces.
Yeah, Bill Clinton was actually the first president that ever didn't serve.
They also said Bill Clinton is the first black president too, and I'm just lost.
Hey Ruben, I do got one question for you. So all this stuff that you've went through and achieved at relatively young age, and again, thank you for your service as well.
Thank you, sir.
Why run for political office?
I think
why put yourself through that?
I think that it's important for citizens to participate first and foremost in our democracy. I mean, that's the bottom line. I'm a social studies teacher. I teach history.
Okay.
And the reason why we have the curriculum set up in the way that we do, we teach 10th grade world history, then we teach U.S. history in the 11th grade, and then in the 12th grade, take U.S. government. It's to get them ready to participate in our beautiful democracy here. And one of the core messages is get involved, get registered to vote, participate in town halls, and run for office. So it would be hypocritical for me to sit back and be a spectator, really. And when there's so much going on around us, you feel as the nation is pulling itself. This is a very bitterly divided country at the moment. And if you believe you have something to offer, get involved in the most direct way and run for an office. And I do believe that I do bring some competencies to the table that aren't there in candidates running for office. It's important for folks like myself and our campaign to participate.
Let me ask you something, Ms. Ortiz. Let me ask you something, Mr. D'Silva. Were you born in this country?
No, I wasn't. I was an immigrant.
And you know something. What I've been seeing is that a lot of Americans that are born in this country is entitled. And a lot of Americans that naturalized from other countries and came to this country in the legal way and naturalized are more involved in our political process than the ones that are actually born here.
Yeah.
I've been noticing that. Yeah, what do you think that is?
I have a lot to say about that. You know, when I served, I was not a citizen.
Right.
I was a green card holder at that time, and even when I was injured in the war, I was not a citizen. But I was still willing to give up my life for this country that gave me so much, gave my family so much.
Right.
You know, my dad used to always say that the best way to give back is to serve in the armed forces. All my brothers served. My brother is a lieutenant in the Army, he's going into Army intelligence. My youngest brother is in the Marine Corps, and we gave back to our country by wearing that uniform and serving as its protectors. So I think that it's important to remember that there are many people out there who love this country, who can't vote, who can't participate, who can't serve on a jury, who can't run for office, but want to be involved. And I remember that too, watching. I was so caught up in all these different races and in American politics before I was a citizen. But I never could vote. Even when I was in Iraq, they were saying, we're bringing the vote to these people. You see these people with this little ink on their finger.
Right.
We're fighting to bring that here. And I was like, I can't even vote in my own country.
And the reason why I asked
Yeah.
that, because I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years before I became a natural citizen. So at that
So
time,
you understand it, yeah.
I couldn't vote. But I think they should change the Constitution and say natural born. They should get rid of that. So anybody that are really patriotic, that came from another country, that really believes in the American way of life, should be able to run for president of the United States.
Oh yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. We're one of the few countries in the world who have this natural born.
Yeah. I don't know why Ted
constitution.
Cruz was running, but that's a whole different story.
But I do agree with you. I think we should reevaluate that. And there's some great folks out there who aren't born in this country, who are patriots, who love this country, who've served this country, and to have the highest office in the land be the only office that you can't run for as a naturalized citizen.
And VP too. So
Yeah, and vice president, yes, because of the fact that
Right.
that's the succession,
Right.
constitutional succession trail we have there. I think it's we should reevaluate it and have a national conversation as to whether or not
I know.
birthright citizenship is a qualification for the presidency.
So I always get cut off by the boys, but I do always. No, we don't have the R and the D in front of our name. Why don't you tell the listeners about how you're making this campaign run and all the sacrifices that you have done? Because we know you're an educator and we know everything, but you are there till 2 a.m. in the morning running this campaign.
Yeah, it's tough. We're not part of the structures of American politics, so to speak. They say you have to be either a Democrat or Republican, but I think we're challenging that notion in a big way. And I think as we move on into the 21st century, this is going to be a growing movement. Independent-minded individuals running for office, serving as that bridge between the two parties, which is and the word that political scientists are using to describe our environment is hyper-partisan now.
Right.
It's
Oh, yeah.
extremely divided. And I remember as a millennial growing up in that first decade of the 2000s, the hatred and that was thrown out there to George Bush, and now we see the same thing for Barack Obama, and that just doesn't help anybody. So I think it's important for us to try to bridge those gaps, and one way of doing that is by being more independent-minded. And while you're running for office, our campaign is independent. We have Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Progressive, Conservatives, everybody. And our town halls, I would venture to say, are some of the best town halls in our district. We have everybody there. We have true exchanges of ideas between people, as opposed to, I think, most town halls that are held by candidates for office. They usually tend to be, and you guys have seen this, they tend to be all Democrats or all Republicans, and there isn't any sort of conversation that's taking place. It's more of a calcification of your own ideas. So I think it's incumbent for people like myself, for people who are involved in our campaign, to challenge the way that American politics works. And in the end, we can make our country a better place. And I'm hoping that there are going to be other people inspired by our campaign who go out there and are willing to take on the status quo and to be more independent in their approach to making our country work.
Right. So if elected, what's your first mission? What do you want to accomplish for your
I have
congressional
so
district?
much. I think again, you just want to get involved and just take the bull by the horn, so to speak. But if you ask me personally, I think one of the single biggest issues facing our nation today is the disproportionate effect of money in politics. There's a good book out there called Affluence and Influence, written by a Princeton professor named Martin Gillens. He talks about this. He says that the wealthy, the affluent, the top 1%, have a huge impact on the types of laws that are passed. He makes an argument and says that if the top 1% want a law to be passed, it has a 33% chance of passing. If 99% of the people out there want a law to a certain policy measure to pass, and the 1% were against it, it also only has a 33% chance of passing. And that to me is not democracy. That to me is an oligarchy. That to me is a plutocracy, a society that's run by the rich. So I think we have to address
It's
that
a what
question.
again?
A plutocracy.
How you spell that?
Or society is run by the rich people.
How you spell it?
Plutocracy.
Come on, you're an educator. You should be
I think
good at
it's
spelling.
plutocracy. Yeah.
I'm just want to know how come America Samoa.
I know. I'm making all my
congressional
East
candidate didn't call
Indian
in yet.
people look bad right now. They're supposed to be great at spelling and winning spelling bees.
I mean, that's what they say, right?
Yeah.
And another thing about you that I've always respected, and I respect many things about you, is that we did not take any money from any super PACs. Every dime you raised on your own.
Yes. That was something that was a conversation. I know Christina was around for that. There were a lot of people who wanted to open up their pockets to us and set up PACs and super PACs, and when those conversations started taking place, there were many people saying you need to play the game. You need this money. You got to be involved. You got to
Right.
that's how you are going to be more competitive. But it was a choice that I made as the candidate, for better or for worse, to say that we're not going to take any of that, because these were my friends who are actually financing the incumbent. And there was a record there of them giving money to Dina Titus,
Right.
and they wanted to keep all this off the record. So we're supporting you, but we're going to form a super PAC, and that's how we're going to help fund
Right.
parts of your campaign or your candidacy for office. But to me, that's all that's wrong with politics.
So-
I think the moral thing to do there was to say no to that. Even though I see what you're saying, you want to help, but again, it's a fundamental problem in our nation's politics today. This dark money, this unaccounted for money, and the moral thing to do there was to say no to it, even though they wanted to be helpful.
What is it you can do? Because now correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it McCain Feingold that really started this whole 501c3
Yeah.
PAC rush? What do you think we should do as far as how do you limit or control campaign contributions legally? I mean, how else could we do it besides? Because I think that law has been shown that there's a way to get around it.
Yeah.
So is there something what would be your suggestion?
That's the Citizens United decision even complicated even further.
Right,
You know, it
right.
gave the affluent even more of a disproportional voice in our nation's politics. There's an interesting piece of legislation out right now. It's called the American Anti-Corruption Act. It's a multifaceted approach to dealing with this whole issue of money in politics. And that's something that I'm very much behind. I would love to be the congressman who introduces it at the federal level. But there's talks of, again, limiting the amounts of special interest donations to campaigns. There's talks of tax incentives for people who contribute to campaigns. Right now, if you wanted to donate $100 to a campaign for a local or federal office, you don't see that back in your taxes. But even if you make it minimal, $100, maybe $50, maybe $200, I think that'll get more people, smaller individual donors, willing to contribute, because they'll see that as some sort of they'll get a receipt for that, later on when they file their taxes. I think this sort of legislation, these ideas can actually help us over time break up that real monopoly that the top 1% big money donors have, and
Right.
the influence that they have in our nation's politics.
Well, what are you going to do for veterans?
Oh, for veterans, one thing I do want to talk about. This is something that I've talked to my staff about. It's a very specific thing. Is adding a third part to the GI Bill. Right now we have educational benefits. We have home owner benefits too. And I've used both. I used the GI Education Bill to help pay for my undergrad, and I used the VA loan to get my house just a year ago.
Right.
I think we should think about entrepreneur opportunities.
Gotcha.
Some sort of a loan that's backed again by the federal government for veterans who want to start their own businesses. I think this would be huge. We bring so much to the table when it comes to thinking about an entrepreneur and what the skill sets that are needed to be an entrepreneur: discipline, self-motivation, knowing how to work on teams, building teams, so on and so forth. I think we should empower our veterans and give some sort of aid there, to folks veterans who want to start their own businesses or be a part of a business by investing in a business, so on and so forth. So I think we should start having this conversation. Make that also something.
That sounds like an idea.
Yeah, because it could also that could also
really.
really help with we always hear about the struggles of the transition process.
Yeah.
Transitioning from military life into the civilian life. But if there was some incentive or some help there where you could start your own business, then I think that might be something that's a little easier, because you're doing it on your own.
Oh yeah, and it would work the same way a home
you would
loan
feel
works.
more comfortable.
You have a cash flow coming in.
Yeah.
You have a solid credit, and why not give those veterans an opportunity to start their own business and help them in that regard?
Mr. D'Silva, could you give us your boundaries, please?
My boundaries, yes, it's a bit muffled up there, but generally, the northern border is Lake Mead. The west side, the historic west side, is actually cut out and added to District 4. So it goes down Lake Mead, cuts down southwards on the I-15, over on the 95 and up Rancho, and it reconnects with Lake Mead, and it goes across generally now to
Right.
Durango. Durango is the western border, the eastern border is Hollywood, and the southern border is again generally Russell, but the airport is incorporated into District 1.
Okay. I need you to look in the camera and tell the folks why they should go to the polls and go vote for you.
The camera's right here. Everybody, my name is Ruben D'Silva, and I am the embodiment of change. You want to talk about change? I am the manifestation of it. I'm an independent candidate. I'm an individual who's not bought. I'm nobody's puppet. I am here to be a voice for the people of my district. I'm here to be the voice for District 1's average citizen, not the special interest, not the big money donors and not the political parties, but the people. Our campaign has been sustained by the people, and when I am in Congress, I will be the voice for the people. Nobody else can say that. Nobody else can has the backing or the credentials in the community to say something like this. And I want to be the one to be your voice. So empower an individual like myself, and let's be the change that we want to see in our political system and in America. Thank you very much. God bless you and your families, and God bless our beautiful country.
And your point of contact, please.
You can reach out to me at DeSilvaforCongress.com. My phone number is 702-412-1930. And please feel free to contact me. We'd love to get you involved in our campaign. We have a short amount of time left until the election. Come get involved. We have a great field operation going. Most of the folks involved at the management level in our campaign are veterans. So it's all about the field. We spend a lot of time in the field, and we know how to run a field operation. So please get involved.
Folks, that's Ruben D'Silva, U.S. congressional candidate for District Number 1, and we encourage all the veterans in politics, members and families to go out and vote for Mr. D'Silva. He's been endorsed by veterans in politics, not because he's a veteran, but because he's the best person for the job. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas, and Christine Ortiz. I don't know what happened to our congressional candidate for American Samoa, but until next week.